Okay, so for these kickstand hinge airplanes, the first part of the movement is a kickstand hinge. So we're going to be set up in a split stance, slight bend in this front knee, and then you want to put all of your weight over this front foot. So if I pick my back foot up, I should stay balanced, okay? This back foot, the toes are just down for balance essentially, but you haven't got any weight for them. From here, I want you to put one hand on your right glute, your right hand, and then your other hand you're going to put on your hip up here. I want you to put your fingers on your hip and your thumb on your rib cage, okay? The reason that we have this hand here at the back is because when we're hinging, the first cue I want you to think about is all the movement comes from your hip traveling backwards. Your spine stays still and nice and neutral. Your hip pushes back and your knee doesn't change angle at all. The movement finishes once you feel like you can't push your hip back anymore. I could go further right now, but my hip isn't going any further back. I'm just flexing from my spine, okay? The reason we've got these hands here is we don't want this distance to change between our hip bone and our rib cage. If I'm hinging back and this distance, my fingers are coming closer together, that means I'm bending through my spine. If I'm hinging back and my ribs and my pelvis are coming further apart, that means I'm extending through my spine. So this distance does not change. This hand here as a cue to push your hip back. So from here, all the way through my front leg, slight bend in the knee, I'm pushing my hip back into my hand, my glute back into my hand, back, 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 back. Once I feel like I've reached my end range, in this position, I want you to do a quick check. Can you lift your back foot up? If no, you've taken too much weight on this back leg. We want your weight through your front foot at all times throughout this movement. Once we're down in the bottom and we've checked that we've got all our weight through our front foot, you should feel a good amount of stretch and lengthening through this glute on this side now. All we're going to do for the airplanes then is currently my hip bones are pointing straight down. I'm now going to turn my hips to point over that way. And now I'm going to come back and turn my hips to point towards you at the camera. When I turn this way towards my stance leg, make sure that you keep that weight on that front foot. You should feel a really nice stretch through all of these posterior glute muscles. And then when I turn this way, keep the weight through the front foot. You should feel your glutes contracting now and opening up. Once you've done one direction each way, we're going to come back up to a neutral position, pushing our hip through forwards and our knee stays bent. That's one rep. You should feel pretty good glute pump after just one rep. Let's do one more. Hip back, 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 back. Once that finishes, I'm not going to go any further, otherwise I'll be moving through my spine. All my weight is through my front leg and I do a little check. So I'm going to point my hips away from the camera, making sure I keep my weight on this front foot. And then I'm going to transition and let my hips point towards you at the camera. Make sure I've got all my weight through this front leg. I'm going to come back to neutral. That's really taxing on my glute. And now I'm going to come back up by pushing my hips forward and keeping my knee bent. And that's really tough.